Thank you for joining this April Backstage Community Session. Welcome to you all. Lee is normally driving these sessions, but he's out today, so I'm covering today for him. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mihai. I'm one of the engineering managers here at Spotify, working also on Backstage. And as I complained earlier, I live in London. But complaining about the weather is what we normally do. So before we dive in, just wanted to run quickly through a brief agenda that we have today. We're going to get some release updates for the most recent Backstage update. Then we're going to have an update from the maintainers. And then we're going to have, if I remember correctly, 2 community demos, Himanshu and Ruth. And then we're going to save some time towards the end for some Q&A. That being said, if there are no immediate questions, happy to jump at the first topic there.
Oh, okay.
I think Preben or Patrick, I've seen you both. I don't know who wants to cover this bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, so as is customary kind of for these meetings, there was recently one minor release, the larger ones that are not the dash next. So this is the mainline release 1.13. I'll just briefly run through what's in it, some highlights. One of them is that we're now TypeScript 5 within the repo that produces these packages. Like in the main repo, we switched to TypeScript 5. This is not something that everyone else needs to mirror. It just means that we build with it. We ensure that our types work with TypeScript 5 and so on. And it will, allow you to do the switch as you see fit later on. This is mentioned, of course, also in the release notes for the release. Then we have 3 experimental ones that I thought were interesting to mention, at least, even though they're experimental and sort of not finished yet. I think they're pretty cool, and you might enjoy using them in their early incantations. The first one is Open API tooling, where you can now write your Open API schema for your service as part of your service. And there's a bit of tooling that helps you translate that into TypeScript safe, type safe routers. So you export not just a plain raw express router, but it's actually a router that has all of the goodness on it. Like it knows what the query parameters are and what the body shape is and so on. So yeah, it's a first step towards this. And we want to expand it to be used in more plugins. And there's experiments going on with making clients and server stubs based on Open API schemas and so on. So yeah, more to come here, hopefully. The second point there is the CLI onboard command, which is something that we're working with internally at Spotify, starting out experimenting a bit with how to make the early adopter journey easier. You just get started, you just want to provide some quick value or a quick demo. What can we do to help you get some quick auth and some demo data or whatnot in there? So not necessarily for long-term or production or late down the line, but for easing onboarding and quick demos and so on. And the last one is inline auth. This is an asked for feature where some auth providers for sign-in or for OAuth token negotiation and so on don't work well with a pop-up window, right? So this is for trying to enable the inline flows where you get directly in the very web page there that you're in is where these challenges or password entering and so on might happen instead of in a pop-up window. For some, this is unlocks new integrations and so on. On the side of new plugins and features, there's a PuppetDB plugin, which is the only, I think, new big plugin in the release that I remember, at least, that lets you inspect your PuppetDB state for your components, listing how they're doing and what the deployments are like and so on. It's pretty neat. The scaffolder is now permissions enabled, so you can ensure that only the right users have access to specific actions or workflows. There's a scaffolder Confluence integration for getting data out of Confluence, essentially. It's also pretty cool, actually, and works out really well, according to early reports. One thing that's sort of big for me, at least, that I've been asked for a while, is help to get rid of orphaned entities out of the catalog. That is, entities that are no longer kept going by anything. For example, if you remove the file in source control and so on, and the entity stays around, it's a security feature, but it can also be tough for people to get rid of them or understand why they're not there and so on. This is a new feature of the catalog that helps to clean them out automatically without user interaction. It's optional. You enable it yourself. Feel free to check out the release notes for how to get going. And also the new backend system is that we've talked about a couple of times is growing, and the search backend and some others are now enabled for use in the new backend system as well. So some movement there as well. Yeah, just a quick rundown of some of the things in there.
Thank you for that, Freben. I'll just pause for a second because there was quite a few interesting bits there. So maybe pausing for a quick sec here to see if there are any reactions, any questions.
The inline auth, I wonder if this is for logging into Backstage and, plugins using, let's say, GitHub auth API-ref to log in the users. Is it for both of these authentications, or it's for the first one only,
Patrick,
or it's for the second one?
Yeah, Patrick, are you here to respond? Yeah.
It is for both. The contribution intends to support both. I cannot remember how much support we added to actually kind of restore state. I believe it's kind of up to plugins to handle the fact that they got redirected and back, right? That's going to be a downside of doing redirect auth rather than pop-up. But yeah, so you can use it for both.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
All right. If there are no more other questions, happy to move to the next one. But I'm sure we'll have some time towards the end. So if you still have some, please save them for the end. And I believe, Patrick, you're up for the maintainer updates.
I can actually do this.
Or sorry, or Fred,
Yeah.
one of you. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just a brief mention that there have been a couple of security advisories around a library called VM2. VM2 is one of the security mechanisms of the scaffolder. Scaffolder leverages it for one of its security mechanisms for isolating your templates as they run to put all the running code in a jail. So there's been a couple of security notices around that one, and they all have fixes in the library. I just wanted to acknowledge that we are taking these, of course, seriously, as always, and we have updated the Backstage repo itself to cover, to migrate to the new safe patched versions of the library. They are in patch level releases of VM2. So it's like VM2, something.17, and we require something that covers 17. So the good thing here is that your own security processes will have caught the same thing and are able to, mitigate this and upgrade VM2 in your own repos without updating Backstage itself. So your own security processes will have also caught this and covered it. But nonetheless, since there's been a series of them and they have had pretty high profile, we've ensured that we have bumped our minimum versions to also cover this, to ensure that we sort of force adopters repos to also become safe. So I just wanted to call out that this has happened, and we're addressing it as best we can, and also trying to help the community to stay safe as well. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to the maintainers, of course.
Thank you for that, Freben. I'll just pause similarly for a few seconds, just in case there are any reactions to that. Going once, going twice. All right. That being said, I think we can move on to community demos. I believe, Ruth, you're up next. Let me stop sharing and let you take over.
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruth Ikigar, based in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm an open source consultant at Biteja. And I'm working on a joint project between Biteja and Pronovix. And we are trying to, we've been trying to contribute to the Backstage community, and we're interested in internal dev portals and also inner source metrics. And, we've been trying to see how we can make impact in Backstage. So we're working on this project where we are, looking at analyzing the growth and good health of the Backstage community. And I kind of prepared a short demo of what I'm working on, although it's still work in progress. So let me just share my screen in a second. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Let me hide the floating controls. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me increase my text as well so that everyone can access it. Okay, great. I think this should be good. Okay, so like I said, we are working on this project where we're trying to analyze the growth and health of the Backstage community. And this demo, what you're looking at right now is built on it's the Biteja Analytics platform, built with, it's 100% open source, built on our open source software called Grimoire Lab. And kind of like what's it pulls from the Backstage GitHub org, the 18 repositories here, and it kind of gets data, retrieves data from the different sources, not just GitHub, but like we have like different sources, but for this is just the GitHub source that we are pulling this data from. And this is like an initial overview of the dashboard. And what the software does is, retrieves data, and we have the identity management system where it kind of like sorts out those data to know who, what kind of contributions people are making and how they're making those contributions. So this is just like an overview of the dashboard. You can see like the top Git commit authors, the organizations that have been contributing. You can also see number of pull requests and issues. And this is in the last 10 years. It has like a time ticker in the last 10 years. So I can toggle in the past year and all that stuff. And then you also have like other panels, other dashboard panels. You can look specifically like GitHub issues, PRs, repositories as well, and even community stats. But for not to overwhelm you, for this particular demo, I kind of looked at a shorter dashboard, an initial dashboard to show. So the meeting, I need to hide the meeting flows controls again, sorry. So yeah, I worked on, a smaller dashboard to show a particular metric called organizational influence in Backstage, kind of showing, the organizations that have been contributing to Backstage, piggyback on the growth of Backstage so far, the organizations that have been contributing to Backstage in the past 1 year. And I can toggle this back to like, 5 years, 2 years, depending on a particular time frame or time range. But for this, I just chose the last 1 year. Oh, sorry. Let me just take this back to the last 1 year. Yeah. Okay. And I'm showing the organizational influence, and this is a metric from the Chaos project, and it kind of like shows the influence organizations have, what kind of organizations have on the trajectory of the open source project, what kind of contributions they are making. And I just showed like if you can see here, I think I need to reduce this a little bit so we can see like a full overview. Is it better now? Okay, great. I'll just make it 100. Okay. Great. Okay, so if you can see, these are the these are the active organizations plus Spotify. So if I add a filter here, just to take Spotify off the list, so people in Spotify can know like the other organizations that have been contributing to Spotify. So that's the field is author org name. I'm just trying to filter by not Spotify. Okay, great. So so in the past 1 year, 43 organizations have contributed to Backstage. And this line chart kind of shows the active organizations that have been contributing via commits, also in the past 1 year. And for this unknown, you can see the list of companies or organizations in this sense. For unknown, why we have unknown here is, and who nobody's unknown, right? But for the unknown organization, this is going back to how our identity management system of the software called Sorting Hat kind of like compiles data. So for people that do not, make commits with their organization email, their domain, so the identity management system kind of like compiles that into unknown. So anyone does not really identify it, puts it in unknown, but you can also see the other organizations that have been contributing like SoundCloud, Frontside Software, VMware. You can scroll down to the list and you can even filter by a particular organization, right? It allows you also drill down to even get more insights into what's that organization, like for example, Rudy. So if I just, filter by Rudy, I'll see the contributions they have, the specific contributions they have been making over time, like the commits in the past 1 year. So I can also like either pin that filter or just delete it to show other ones. Also, this is a chart showing pull requests, the pull requests that different organizations have been submitting as well. And the other chart here is kind of like a bar chart of the evolution of this pull request by time in the past 1 year. So you can see the different list of organizations here, and you can also still filter by those different organizations. And remembering that I pinned Spotify up here as is not showing any data from people, people from Spotify. So I would really, this is still work in progress, like I said, and I'd really love to get thoughts and feedback, and also like metrics that, both Spotify and, people from Spotify and other organizations are looking forward to seeing this report. And I would definitely love to connect with people. I'm also on the Discord as well as Ruthie Kega. So I would definitely love, thoughts, feedback, questions, metrics that you are looking for your organization, and even in Backstage, like what kind of activity you're looking to track. And yeah, sure.
This looks wonderful. Ruth, thank you for sharing that. Any
Sure.
immediate questions or reactions to Ruth's demo?
Is this dashboard public?
It's not yet public, but would definitely, we can talk about, I don't know who asked the question, but it's not public yet.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, very much.
Okay, yeah, so it's not public yet. This is private for now.
Yes. Chaos is one of my favorite communities around open source metrics. And I think, yeah, they have tons of good software to do all kinds of these, health metrics on how good a project is moving and all. So yeah, I think having an open metric would be fantastic, but because I tried to set these things up, and it's always a issue. It's not straightforward to do this.
Yeah, sure. I'll definitely hope to maybe connect and maybe know because I'm also active in the Chaos project as well. So
oh, awesome. I used it once to implement the opensource.twitter.com site. It's still there. I'm surprised no one is there in the team, but yeah, like Chaos is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Actually, I had a quick question. When you did earlier the 10-year thing and then you changed that to 1-year thing, it seemed pretty fast. I saw like a minimum latency. Is the data behind like cached somehow, or maybe you mentioned it at the beginning and I missed it, or it seemed like everything was quite fast when you did the query.
Yeah, like I think might be my bandwidth as well. Maybe I had played into that. But yeah, like the data is like pre-computed.
Cool.
I have a question to the other attendees, like because this is now about the Backstage project, but similar dashboards you could build for like code repositories in your organization. So if you would like to know, like, are people really collaborating inside of the organization? I don't know if you all are familiar with inner sourcing, but if you're like doing an source in your organization, something like this to how much is a silo effect still in the organization, or are people actually doing pull requests against each other's projects across department silos and stuff like that? Is that something that's alive in the Backstage community, or that's like because one of the things we've been thinking about together with Ruth and with Daniel, but he couldn't make it today, is like would it be interesting to build like a community metrics plugin for Backstage or something like that, so that people can analyze their internal developer communities using this same kind of technologies that you could also use on open source projects. I don't know if there's anybody who's ever bumped into that need.
Yeah, all the time. That's what I can say. Like even inside Spotify, there's a lot of work going on to understand inner source collaboration and how it's going. And even in my current company, we actually have a kind of a paid offering as well. Like it's a huge company to do all of these things. So I do believe these metrics are quite important for organizations who grow large, without any doubt. So a Backstage plugin sounds really cool to get all those metrics. I think we also have similar plugins already. There is a, not exactly, but Tech Insights plugin also kind of does that to show the health of your services and all. So I do believe there'll be interest in this one.
Is there specific things you would be looking for, like specific kind of metrics?
I mean, things like, which teams are kind of overloaded with requests internally, or which teams actually do not contribute to any other repositories at all. These are some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm in the car by now. So sorry about that.
Take care there and drive safe.
I'm not driving.
Don't text and drive, please.
No.
Thank you for that, Christoph. Cool. Any other reactions or questions for Ruth? If not, I think we can hand it off to Himanshu.
Sure.
All right, let me.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ruth.
Himanshu, you're up.
Okay. I think I need co-host permission again.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Ruth, yeah, or you.
Yeah, I think Ruth may be the owner now. Give me 1 second.
All right,
Yeah,
got it.
I just made it.
Perfect. Thank you, Ruth.
Share my screen. Can only share a window. Why is that? Okay, maybe this one then.
Look at the bright side, Himanshu. At least you don't have to restart the browser.
Yeah, mistakes have been made previously and lessons have been learned.
I know the feeling.
Can you see my browser window?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey folks. Yeah, my name is Himanshu Mishra. I'm Orco Hunter on Discord and GitHub. And is ChatGPT still a hot topic? Because I feel like this was what everyone was talking about 3 weeks ago. There were a bunch of $1 million ideas around this. And I thought, what can I do? So I sat down one night and really tried to see what can I do with ChatGPT and Backstage. Because yeah, asking questions on public information is fine. But what if I start asking it questions that can only be answered from a Backstage system? Things like, tell me more about this service. Who owns this service? Okay, in this particular service, what can I do? What is this? Etc. etc. All kinds of things that you can imagine. And then I started thinking, it does make sense. Like we have been trying to build these things like VS Code plugin for Backstage and all these sorts. So essentially, Backstage UI is just a interface for developers to interact with this. But if really in future developers will have a new UI, Copilot, ChatGPT, and whatnot, would they be interested in actually searching for all these things from there? So yeah, I started digging deeper, and I came up with something. But unfortunately, my OpenAI key has reached its limit, and you really have to put in a phone number, and I have exhausted all my phone numbers. So fortunately, I have a video. So you'll see me 2 times in this recording. And let me mute myself because that's the last thing I want to do, to hear myself. But yeah, but what is Backstage, or what is an internal developer portal? It contains all the information about your company's software ecosystem, right? It contains all kinds of softwares that you have, their metadata. It contains the documentation part of it, and it can also do certain things, right? So how about we save developers some clicks and then offer them a chat interface to do that? So that's what I did. I was looking into, so like I'll just show you a demo. Like let's start by asking, tell me more about this pet store service. Can it do that? And then it will start. And this is all just magical to see that it understands ownership is an important piece to show, but also shows what APIs does this service expose. I can ask what is the link for that, and will give me a GitHub link for that particular entity. I can ask who owns it, and it will identify the owner, and then it will show that to me. I can also ask stuff about any other service. You can see me here copy pasting the Wayback Archive storage because it's very hard to type. But yeah, it does understand basic metadata that is part of the entity definition. And then I'm also checking, is it experimental or production, this lifecycle piece that exists there. So that is all about, just feeding, let me pause, but this is just feeding an entity definition into ChatGPT. And then it was able to, give me some, and also I've reduced the number of tokens a lot. This is version 3. That's why the answers are very short. And I'm also asking very short questions. And I was not able to train it on, large data. So this is just like 30 entities into a JSON, and then me loading that JSON into ChatGPT. But another thing that I did was I fed a TikToks, like generated documents from a TikToks, entity, and then fed it into ChatGPT. And then I started asking, these particular things like, this, how to feed this org data into Backstage. That's part of documentation, and it's written here. I was able to answer these questions. It was magical to see that. Of course, it's all a black box for me, how this works. But yeah, just asking these questions, yeah, it was able to answer, in short, but really specific things like, if you've dealt with Backstage, this thing called visibility when you create app configs, and there's 3 types as listed in this table. And I asked ChatGPT, what is a visibility inside Backstage? And it actually gave me that there are 3 types of visibility systems, and I can ask more detailed questions in here. So that was it, and then I got bored. Then I thought, okay, you know what? What's new? Let me stop this. But just to show you the process, I use this library called LangChain. If you have not heard of it, but this provides a lot of ways to load data into ChatGPT to create your own. I don't know. It's called index vector. My ML knowledge is limited, but yeah, I just use this document loader, plain document loader, and then I exported. So first of all, I tried to export the Postgres DB of Backstage, but then I realized which particular DB. Like there are final entities, there are staged. There's so many tables which contains information about services, and then I thought, if I start exporting if I export just one, it will miss out on the relations data, for example. So I thought, let me hit the API of catalog 50 times, and then get all the JSONs. Then I stored it in a file, and then I used a simple document loader to do that. If I can share my VS Code, you can see these handy 10 lines of code. So yeah, all the entities are fed into a document loader, and that's pretty much it. And then in TechDocs, I actually just loaded all the Markdown files as a simple Markdown loader, and then it was able to understand everything. It's very rudimentary. Like I intentionally reduced the power to not hit the limit when I was building this. But I do believe, there's room for innovation here. If we were to kind of load data internally inside your organization, let's say we load data from Confluence. We have all things in cloud that are stored. What if I read your email? No, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's the use case in a company, but this was powerful to see how to customize this tool to make it more personal. And yeah, so this is AI and Backstage combined. Let's see if if anyone else does something. Happy to chat. I don't know what we can do with this. Everyone is unsure, but this was interesting to experiment. Right, that's all me.
Thank you for that, Himanshu. That was brilliant to see. I can already start thinking about what happens. How often do you have to do the ingestion then, so that you stay up to date with the life cycle of the components? Like you have a component and change the owner, and then how often you'd have to. But then I'm like, ingestion in catalog, inception. So I'm not going to ask that question, but this was brilliant to see.
I guess we could listen to these changes in Backstage, and then update it. The search part is Phil. The search part is actually, I was thinking, like, people do search in Backstage, and search is extensible, so you can search through your Confluence and stuff like that. And in Spotify, I remember we had Stack Overflow Enterprise, and they were questions and answers. So how do I use this particular service, which is internal information? And I would get the answer in search. So it does make sense that Backstage search in itself is kind of like a mix of both, like ChatGPT as well as what we have right now.
Any more questions, reactions, concerns, regulations for the AI?
Yeah, don't do
Sorry,
this.
I'm not going to open that topic. Sorry, I take that back.
No, yeah. I trained this on public data. No one's Backstage data is touched, by the way, disclaimer. I don't have access.
Just teasing you, Himanshu, no worries. Cool.
Cool.
If there are
Alright.
no more, thank you, Himanshu, again for that. Well, I think that concludes the demo section, and I think we're now at the wrap with any other outstanding questions from anything that was discussed today.
How was KubeCon, folks who gave a talk? How was the audience reaction? What are people asking in person and on backstage? Any comments, any reactions there?
I see Patrick smiling.
Do we have Ben here too?
Yes, I'm
See
here.
him.
Yes. Hello. Yeah. So we both went. We both gave a talk. It was good. We got a bigger room this time around. Yeah, we tried to go to some backstage talks as well. Couldn't. Stuck in queue full before we could get in.
Wow. You should have a special ID. Like, hey, I should be the first one to get in if it's a backstage talk.
No. Yeah, met a lot of you. Met people from the community. We had a project meeting too. Lots of good discussions and lots of excitement around backstage. Ben, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. It was fun. I left a little bit early, but yeah, it was good to meet everybody there, and project meeting was fun. Yeah, the talk was good. You should watch it. I don't know if it's on YouTube yet or not, but it should be soon. Yeah, the talk was fun. It's nice giving a talk in a spotlit theatre. Everyone's good.
Cool. Thank you for that. If there are no more questions, I think we can conclude and all of us get 17 minutes back. Before we do, just wanted to thank you again all for attending. Thank you, Ruth and Himanshu, for the demos, and see you next time.
I have a quick question.
Take good care of you,
It's
everyone.
unrelated.
Oh, sorry, go on, Christoph.
Yeah. So, we've been asking about if there's anybody who would like to present about Backstage at the API Docs track at API Days in New York next month. I don't know if has that request reached you, or who is the right person to ask for this kind of stuff normally?
So let me take action on that. Thank you for that. I haven't heard of it, but I can talk to Lee. I think he would normally be aware of this. So you said New York next month?
Lara, when is API Days? The 16th and 17th? Yeah. 16th, 17th of May. And I think the presentation will be on the 17th.
Cool. Let me get back to you on this one.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me channel it internally and then try to get back to you on Discord or one of the other channels. Thanks for asking. It's a good question.
I'll next time I'll maybe pop up here to ask a bit early. Okay.
No worries. Thank you for the question. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day. Take care.
You too.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Mary.